importing and exporting settings, and uploading new firmware. So the first thing we want to do is we want to export settings. After you have configured your controller, you want to save those settings. Now remember, it saves it automatically throughout the process, so you don't have to periodically save during your configuration process. You can wait till all the way through the end. So we're going to say we're done. So we're going to hit save. This does take a few minutes, especially with the more panels you have, the longer it takes because it has to go out and it's saving all the configurations for all of your fuse panels. So this will take a few minutes. Then just save. Okay, wherever you save it. And then what we want to do, our next step is with that we want to upload firmware. Now I already have 3.11 on here, which is the new firmware, which is what you're going to want to upload, but we're going to upload it again. So those are the steps. You'd want to export, save your settings. Now we're going to install the firmware. And this will be downloadable from our website. Now this option it will save it again, but I have you go through that other step just so you can save it and verify that it got saved. If you want to save it again, feel free. So I'm going to hit cancel because I know we already saved it. And while this is uploading, we can go and verify. There it is. There's the file that I saved. And it goes by the IP address and the date. So you know that it's the most current NCS file. So the NCS is your configuration file. A BNC is the firmware file. So it's uploading, it's got to validate, it'll reboot. Once again, this takes 1 to 2 minutes after it reboots. We'll lose connection to the browser, and then we just simply refresh. Okay, so now that's done with the update. So now after you update, some settings could potentially get overwritten. That's why it was so important to export your settings first, because after you update your firmware, we're going to want to re-import those settings. So go to re-import settings and hit browse. And wherever you saved your settings, you'll want to navigate to that location. Now what I did is I have a configuration I saved previously with different name and different IP address and different settings so that I can show you. So right now we're at default. I'm going to import different settings. And then we'll go through and view some of the changes that I just imported. The main thing will be the name. That will change. In my global fuse rating thresholds, I have set differently. My IP address is set differently. So I just want to show you that everything gets imported in on your when you import that NCS file. And if you notice, it shows you the file I'm uploading. So I saved this today, but that's the IP address of the controller that I saved it from. And another thing to note here is if you guys are setting up lineups that are identical and you have a controller for each lineup, you can say configure one, save the NCS file, save your configuration, and you can upload it to multiple controllers. Only thing you'd have to change is anything that's different in the lineup, or I should say, and the IP address, because of course you're going to want a unique IP address for each controller. And remember, each controller can go up to 30 panels. Okay, so it's timed out because we're still trying to talk to the original IP address. we have it set up as so there we go. So it changed the IP address, so therefore I had to navigate to it through the new IP address. So if you notice, so first of all, the IP address changed, the controller name changed, site, here's an address. So if I go into advanced, so on this one I was not using the global thresholds for the first 10 fuses, and I had set those differently for each one just for testing purposes or just for this training session. So there we go. That's how you upgrade and import settings for your panel.